Hello everyone, and welcome back to the second lecture of the study course named Kinesiology of the Musculoskeletal System. Today we are going to discuss how kinesiology of the shoulder girdle look like. So I hope this time going to be more practical and a little bit less formal. Let's get started. And I would like to start with the anatomy review to make this material more clear. So the shoulder girdle complex consists of mechanically interconnected bones. So we have sternum, we have clavicle, we have ribs, 12 of them on both sides, so 24 and together, scapula and humerus, and they together enable the range of motion of the upper extremities, allowing the various type of manipulations. A muscular complex function allows coordinated movements in the different planes, so we are able to move our hand freely in space. And any disturbances in these muscles function or innervation, like trauma or chronic condition, might cause then kinematic disorders throughout the shoulder girdle complex. To make clear what muscles I'm talking about, you can make your notes about muscle that you see here in the picture. We'll see them later on in this lecture as well. And but now I would like to talk about all the structures I mentioned before more deeply. And if you try to separate those bones that we see in case of scapula, both posterior on the left and the anterior on the right views of the shoulder blade, and the surrounding muscles look like somehow like this. So let me break down the picture in simple terms. The posterior view, or picture A here, shows the back of the shoulder blade with several important muscle attachments in it. We have upper trapezius muscle at the top. We have supraspinatus muscle in a small triangle-shaped area about the spine of the scapula. The infraspinatus muscle, which occupies a large area below the spine, as well as rhomboid, major, and minor, as well as levator scapular muscles, which help control shoulder blades movement. And as well, here you can see that there is minor and major insertion spots on the lateral border and the bottom angle of the scapula. So those muscles are playing a crucial role in shoulder stabilization. We'll discuss later on as well. And the anterior view, or picture B, shows the front of the shoulder blade with subscapularis muscle, which covers most of the front surface. The serratus anterior muscle as well along the side is another important muscle usually involved in scapular and shoulder stabilization we're going to talk about today. And various attachment points for other shoulder muscles like the deltoid and biceps are also presented, as they might be helpful in future and understanding of their roles in shoulder overall function. Understanding this anatomy is crucial because these muscles work together to move your arm and stabilize your shoulder during everyday activities and sports-related activities. So 17 in total, 17 muscles that are helping us to do what we like to do with our arms and upper limb together. When we go next and see how proximal humerus look like, so the shoulder joint that we used to name as the shoulder joint, then we can see that this interior part of the proximal humerus and its muscle attachments here, where the key anatomical features are head of the humerus, inside the scapular fossa. I like the example of golf ball on T so much as an analogy because it really explains how shoulder joint relies on active muscular stability because of this really small concave articular surface of the scapula, this fossa subscapularis, and relative huge convex joint surface of the humerus head. So we can really conclude that shoulder really relies on our muscles that we need to train, that part of them I have mentioned just right now in the scapular part of the lecture. And here we can go further to see some of the important angles and orientations of our shoulder. So picture A shows a 135-degree angle, which is an inclination angle of the humeral head relative to the shaft. The second picture, or the picture B, shows a 30-degree retroversion angle between the humeral head and the transepicondylar axis of the distal humerus. These angles are important for several anatomic and functional reasons. So the first one, this 135-degree inclination angle, helps optimize the deltoid muscle's mechanical advantage during arm elevation and provides proper alignment for the rotator cuff muscles to function effectively. So actually our shoulder is built up exactly like this because of the most efficient way of how to move. So nature is really smart from this point of view And the another angle that we need to take into account, so this 30-degree retroversion angle, it helps to prevent the impingement of the greater tuberosity of the humerus against the acromion during arm elevation and allows for better range of motion and external rotation. And from this point of view, what we need to take into account, so when these normal angles are altered due to injury or any developmental issues during our childhood, it can lead to biomechanical disturbances. So in this case, we need to spend more time to adjust, to adapt, and also we need to take this into account where we're planning any training programs in case we have them in order to prevent trauma. So another important angles are shown on this anatomical illustration that throws some light on the scapular plane and important angles in the shoulder biomechanics. The image shows a superior view of the shoulder complex, including the humerus, scapula, clavicle, and thoracic vertebra with ribs. So there are several key angles marked in red and dark lines. The so-called scapular plane in between the chest and scapula, which is oriented approximately 30 to 40 anterior, 30 to 40 degrees anterior to the frontal plane of the body, and the retroversion angle of the humerus that we have already discussed, shown at about 30 degrees relative to the transverse axis. So this happens due to the orientation of the scapula by itself. And these angles are crucial for understanding normal shoulder biomechanics and movement patterns we will see later on here. So here I have the picture of the scapular plane orientation, and it is particularly important as it represents the most functional plane of motion for the shoulder, where most of everyday activities occur. Even me, as you can see a little bit, I'm sitting with my shoulders slightly abducted horizontally. And the key idea of the scapular plane is that during this we have less contact of tubercular major of the humerus with the acromion that we will discuss later on as well. And this presentation will put some light on it. But in general, movements at this plane just fit our skeleton shape and our nature. Once again, think or makes everything simple just for us to be able to move freely without any discomfort or pain and to be biomechanically efficient. So let's get started with the arthrology or kinesiology of the movements at the shoulder blade. So we're going to go through the different joints that form shoulder girdle to realize what type of movement they provide, as well as what are the key factors that might impact them. And I would like to start with movements in the scapulothoracic articulations, which are mechanically linked to the movements of the sternoclavicular and acromioclavicular joints. The position of scapula on the thorax provides the foundation for the glenohumeral joint functions. Shoulder movements are defined as combined movements in the glenohumeral and scapulothoracic joints, and all joints function as kinematic chain to maximize the range of motion of the shoulder and arm. For this reason, any weakness, pain, or instability in any link of the chain will lead to reduced chain efficiency and impairing function of the entire upper extremity, which means that if you have any trauma or impairment in any of the joints that I list here, so sternoclavicular, acromioclavicular, glenohumeral, or scapulothoracic, means that you will have problems with movements in whole of your arm, even elbow and wrist mechanics will be impaired, and at some point you need to think about it just in order to prevent any additional problems in all the kinematic chain. Let's see how these joints are built, and the sternoclavicular joint I would like to start with. So it's a complex articulation that includes the medial end of the clavicle, the clavicular facet surface on the sternum, and the superior margin of the first costal cartilage. So the first rib is also involved here. At the basilar joint, so the connection of the axial skeleton with appendicular skeleton as well. So it helps us to translate the power from upper limb to the body and vice versa, as well as we already know that it simultaneously requires, first of all, high stability and as well as high mobility, which are provided by periarticular connective tissues as well as by irregular saddle type joint shape, as you can see here in the picture.